Chapter 2 Renaissance and Feudalism. Part B Reformation.
Introduction.
During the Middle Ages, the Roman Catholic Church and the Pope gained huge powers. Numerous immoral and corrupt practices had become part of the Church. Consequently, the Reformation movement began with an aim to stop such corrupt practices. Reformation refers to the 16th century movement in Europe which sought a reform in the beliefs and practices of the Roman Catholic Church. It began in the 13th century and gained momentum in the 16th century. The movement led to a social transformation, causing an upheaval in the Roman Catholic Church and creating new sects in Christianity. Dominance of religious institutes in the Middle Ages. The Pope was the supreme religious power and the head of the Roman Catholic Church. He had a strong influence over the religious, political, and social life of the common people. The Pope and the Church dominated the behavior and daily life of the people. Even the king was considered subordinate to the Pope. The Pope could overthrow and excommunicate the king from the religion if he disobeyed the Pope. The Church frequently interfered in political matters, which led to clashes between the European kings and the Pope. The Church also possessed large areas of land and property in Europe. The Pope and the Church clergy enjoyed huge powers. As a result, many malpractices and corrupt practices entered the Church, with priests and churchmen focusing less on religious matters and more on seeking pleasure and living a decadent life. The priests committed several malpractices, such as nepotism or bestowing favors to one's family members, simony or buying and selling of positions in the Church, and the sale of indulgences, which were pardons for sins in exchange of money. The rise in power and wealth of the Church and an increase in the abuses of power by the priests led to many European reformers demanding a change in the working of the Church. Let us have a look at some of the major European reformers. John Wycliffe, 1320 AD to 1384 AD. John Wycliffe lived 200 years before the Reformation movement. He is considered a pioneer of the Reformation movement, as he was the first to criticize the malpractices of the Church. He is, therefore, known as the morning star, Venus of Reformation. He was a philosopher, theologian, and a teacher at Oxford University in England. He was the first to translate the Latin Bible into English, thus making it accessible to the common people who didn't know Latin. He advocated following the Bible and not the Pope as the sole authority of Christianity. He formed a group of clergymen called the Lollards who went about preaching the English Bible. He also began a movement to protest the absolute power of the Pope and questioned beliefs in superstitions. His activities led to his dismissal from Oxford. He was excommunicated from the church, and 44 years after his death, he was declared a heretic and his remains were dug up and burnt. John Huss, 1369 AD to 1415 AD. John Huss was a Czech priest and professor at the Charles University in Prague. He was greatly influenced by the writings of John Wycliffe. Huss began a religious movement condemning the malpractices in the Roman Catholic Church and advocating reforms in the Church. His movement spread widely in the state of Bohemia, which is today a part of Czechoslovakia. Due to his anti-church opinions, he was excommunicated and burned at the stake in 1415 AD. Erasmus, 1469 AD to 1536 AD. Desiderius Erasmus was a Dutch teacher, theologian, Catholic priest and humanist. He was a strong critic of the Catholic Church. In his book, In Praise of Folly, he condemned the superstitions in the European society and the corrupt practices of the Church. The book brought about an awareness about the malpractices of the Church among the people who started to criticize the Church. He never openly criticized the Church. Instead, he used his writings to bring to light the abuses of the Church. He believed in reforming the Church from within and remained a member of the Catholic Church his entire life. Zwingli, 1484 AD to 1531 AD. Ulrich Zwingli was a priest who led the Reformation movement in Switzerland. As a priest, he preached about reforming the Church. Through his sermons, he condemned the hypocritical behavior of the priests and the corrupt practices of the Church. He insisted on following the Bible as the sole authority rather than the Pope. His teachings are considered as part of the Calvin sect of Protestants. Zwingli died while fighting with the followers of the Pope at Kappel in 1531 AD. John Calvin, 1509 AD to 1564 AD. John Calvin was a French theologian and priest who had a major influence on the Protestant Reformation movement. He had studied law, theology, and philosophy. He wrote a book called Institutes of Christian Religion, which outlined his teachings. He broke away from the Catholic Church and settled in Geneva, Switzerland as an exile. There, he was asked by the town council to suggest reforms for the Geneva Church. Calvin suggested a strict moral code which included strict adherence to the teachings of the Bible, regular prayers, ban on festivals, functions, merrymaking, sports and dancing, tough punishments for religious offences, etc. As a result, he was called the Puritan dictator. His sect was called Puritan or Calvinism. Calvinism spread to France, Netherlands, Germany, Hungary, Poland, Scotland, etc. The beginning of Reformation. The atrocities of the Pope and the Church were becoming increasingly unbearable. In 1517, Pope Leo X announced that indulgences would be granted to those who donated money for the construction of the St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican City. An indulgence meant that the people would be forgiven for their sins and could secure a place in heaven if they bought the indulgences. Consequently, a large number of people started buying indulgences. In this way, the Pope fooled the common people to fill the church's coffers. This and other corrupt practices of the church led to the reformers protesting and agitating against the Pope. The reformers garnered support from many European rulers who willingly agreed to curb the Pope's interference in political matters. To spread their ideas, the reformers wrote many books and formed various organizations. They tried to make the common man understand religion. Martin Luther, 1483 AD to 1546 AD. Martin Luther was born in 1483 AD at Olleborn into a poor family of miners. He was a German monk and lived in a monastery. However, he was disillusioned by the corrupt and immoral practices prevalent in the Roman Catholic Church, which contradicted from the teachings of the Bible. He gained a doctorate in theology from Wittenberg University in Germany and later started teaching theology and philosophy at the university. He was influenced by the writings of John Huss. He resisted the selling of indulgence by Pope Leo X. Luther wrote a proposal to conduct a debate on indulgences, giving 95 theses or reasons to stop the sale of indulgences. He nailed his proposal on the doors of the church at Wittenberg and also sent copies to his friends. In a few months, his ideas spread throughout Germany and Europe. When the church asked him to take back his words, he refused, saying that the Pope doesn't have the sole authority to interpret the Bible. He considered the Bible to be the sole authority. He also translated the Bible into German to make it accessible to the common people. He believed that every country should establish its church and people should have personal liberty. He denounced emphasis on rituals in religious activities. He advocated that the state's authority should be greater than the papal authority. He also advocated nationalism. In 1521, Martin Luther was excommunicated from the Roman Catholic Church. Luther traveled throughout Europe to preach his ideas. He also created a new church called Lutheranism. The Europeans supported his teaching of liberty by faith. Many European rulers, knights, and common people supported him in his movement against the church. Since Martin Luther and his followers protested against the Church, they came to be known as Protestants. Today, Protestants form a distinct set of Christianity, the other sect being the Roman Catholics. Consequences of Reformation. 1. The Reformation put an end to the unjust practices of the Church. 2. The movement advocated the concepts of individualism and liberty and led to their spread in Europe. 3. It resulted in a division in the Christian Church with the emergence of the Protestant sects. Later, many subsects appeared. 4. Several religious books were published to spread the ideology of the new sects. 5. The Bible was translated into several languages. This made the Bible more accessible to the common people and broke the authority of the Church. 6. It shook the foundations of the Roman Catholic Church and the Pope, who had previously enjoyed undisputed powers. 7. The Pope's influence on political issues and the Church was curbed. 8. Every country established its own religious organization and put them under control of the state. 9. The king became the head of the political and religious organizations, leading to the rise of absolute monarchy. 10. The European countries followed either Roman Catholicism or Protestantism. This led to numerous battles between the countries. Several countries broke away and became independent. This promoted nationalism. As a result, Europe saw many changes and developments in education, trade, and commerce. 11. The movement promoted concepts of individualism, personal property, human rights, and liberalism. 12. Reformation movement reached England in the 16th century. 13. In 1534, Ignatius of Loyola established the Society of Jesus. The Society's members are called Jesuits. They were involved in setting up of hospitals and schools for the poor. The Jesuits formed an essential part of the Counter-Reformation movement, which was initiated in response to the Protestant Reformation movement to win back people to the Roman Catholic Church. The Counter-Reformation initiated by the Pope included measures to bring an end to corrupt practices in the Church.
If you like our videos, please do share and subscribe to our channel.